Hello. As part of my discrimination series, the third book that I'll be reviewing today is a very popular book, and I'm sure most of us would have read it or seen the movie Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Uh, we all love Harry Potter because it's a children's book, and some of us have actually learnt a lot from it, not just in childhood but even in our adulthood. But I think Rowling is a genius because, in very subtle ways, she tells us how we treat people who are inferior to us or who are different from us. There are a lot of characters who face harassment, embarrassment, humiliation at the hands of others because they are different or they are new to the wizarding world. And we never actually sit down and think about these characters and what they teach us. So I'll be quoting only from this book, but the references that I'll be taking will be spread across all the books, right? Without further ado, let's see. The Vanishing Glass chapter. Perhaps it had something to do with living in a dark cupboard, but Harry had always been small and skinny for his age. He looked even smaller and skinnier than he really was because all he had to wear were old clothes of Dudley's, and Dudley was about 4 times bigger than he was. Harry had a thin face, knobbly knees, black hair, and bright green eyes. He wore round glasses held together with a lot of sellotape because of all the times Dudley had punched him on the nose. Now, we forget this chapter because it's the first chapter, and before we know it, we have entered the exciting world of Platform 9 3 by quarters and Hogwarts. But do you realize that this is an 11-year-old boy who has been living in a small cupboard, wearing borrowed clothes, wearing glasses which have been broken because he was punched and they have been held together by sellotape? Isn't this child abuse? Somebody skinny and small for his age because he was probably underfed and malnourished and he was only given leftovers. So it is Rowling's genius that she has turned it into something macabre because we just look at it and we are like, okay, fine. Oh, that happened. I'm so sorry. Wait. Harry's a wizard now. Oh my God, he's been redeemed. But the first 10 to 11 years of his life were pure child abuse. Why? Why? Because Harry did not have a legal guardian over his head. By legal guardian, I mean somebody close to him, not the Dursleys, obviously. His mom and dad were not there, so he was an orphan. He was dependent upon others. He did not have a penny to his name as far as they were concerned, and hence the discrimination. We later on see how surprised and interested the relatives get when they get to know that a house has been left in his name in this sixth book. So all these things happen in our society also. When you look at people who are orphans or people who have only one parent, especially only the mother, they are often neglected in the family, or they are treated inferiorly, or they are not given the first preference. Then, as the story moves on, they reach Hogwarts, and this is where they meet Malfoy. Think my name's funny, do you? No need to ask who you are. My father told me all about the Weasleys. They have red hair, freckles, and more children than they can afford. You'll soon find out some wizarding families are much better than others, Potter. You don't want to be go making friends with the wrong sort. I can help you there. So again, time and again, we will see through the book that the Weasleys are looked down upon because one, they are poor. Uh, they cannot buy first-hand clothes. They cannot buy first-hand books. They have more children than they can afford, which is true. And second, they are also muggle loving people, which is again something that you don't do. So you are not only poor, you're also different. So everywhere they go, they're not given the first priority. uh, Mr. Weasley has a very small office in the Ministry of Magic, and nobody gives him respect or attention for that matter. Ron very often states his woes. He wants a better life. He wants to be somebody, not just part of a huge family where he's nowhere, and his brothers constantly overshadow him. So, all these things are subtly placed in the book, right? Let's talk about Hermione. Hermione is called a mudblood in the second book. Hermione is often would have been ignored if she wouldn't have been a brilliant witch. We see that how the new potion master looks at Hermione. Slughorn thinks that, oh, you are a bright witch, despite being Muggle born. So that that tag is always there. It makes you a second class citizen then and there. Voldemort himself is ashamed of where he comes from, so he never tells them that he's half blood, you know. So in all these subtle ways, these characters kind of form the second class citizen category. Or be it Neville Longbottom, for example. He isn't that rich, and his parents are obviously invalid. So he is also constantly sidelined, and we see how his confidence is affected by the fact that these things are not there in his life, and he regains the confidence only later in the book. So, Dobby, for example, Dobby is also different from his class, different from all the other house elves. So he is also, treated differently. People don't understand him. People want him to stay away, and people want to stay away from him. So uh, Harry is a gem of a person, because through Harry, Rowling teaches us that we should be friends with people who are good to us, no matter whether they are poor, whether they are muggle loving, whether they are muggle born, whether they want freedom from slavery, whatever it is. Harry chooses his friends from the second class citizen category. But do we do that? Are we confident enough? Don't we often look for people who are approved by the society? People of our religion, people of our caste, people of our social standing, rather than people who we know that will be good for us. So these are things that we should ponder upon. Are we actually following Harry and Rowling in our lives? Thank you.